A former member of Counting On for a considerable amount of time, Jinger Duggar has been telling stories about the challenging circumstances of her childhood. There are already 2 books that she has published, both of which discuss the damaging doctrines of the IBLP and how she was able to find true freedom. It has been speculated that Jinger harbors resentment towards her parents as a result of her conduct. However, according to her most recent podcast, all of the questions have been answered. Stay tuned to find out what her response is. Putting your faith in Jinger Duggar's troubled history. During the period that Jinger spent in Arkansas, she encountered a great deal of difficulty in her life. At one point, one of them was attempting to live up to the standards set by other people. According to the former cast member of Counting On, she has reached a stage where she does not consume food in order to maintain her ideal weight, just like the other members of the church that she observed when she was a youngster. Thankfully, Michelle was able to assist her in overcoming her problematic eating disorder. On the other hand, Jinger is one of the few members of the family who has never been a supporter of the beliefs of the IBLP. Those who hold beliefs that are in opposition to those of the family are likely to become estranged, just like Jill. On the other hand, Jinger's most recent question and answer session reveals a different narrative. In front of her parents, Jinger is forthright about her anger. Recently, Jinger Duggar addressed her anger towards her parents in a podcast that she recently released. The former cast member of Counting On said, "No," after elaborating that despite her background, she never had any conflicts with her parents. She proceeded by saying, "I can say that very clearly," and she went on to say that her parents had no desire for them to achieve success, which was something that they had been promised by the IB program. After that, Jinger continued by saying that a significant number of the parents who attend the IBLP's classes are admirable individuals. She stated that she had a difficult time and encountered a lot of difficulties while she was being raised according to the norms of the IBLP. "I don't have any anger towards them for it because, I just see, they did their best," she added. "I simply see that they did their best." One thing to count on is that Jinger Duggar maintains her communication with her family. Jinger has demonstrated that she is still in contact with her family by continuing to notify them about the activities she has been participating in over the previous few months. The former cast member of Counting On even celebrated her birthday with her family in Arkansas in December of last year, which was also the location of the gender reveal party that she and Jeremy had. Jinger Duggar has not yet informed her family about the kinds of things she plans to do in the future. She has been quite busy promoting her most recent book. In March of 2025, the woman who is 31 years old is also anticipated to give birth to her 3rd child. A journey of self-discovery and anger. In the world of the Duggar family, public images of joy, religious devotion, and family unity often hide deeper layers of complexity. Jinger Duggar, once a prominent figure in the world of reality television, has spent much of her life under the public's scrutinizing gaze. As the daughter of Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, Jinger grew up in the spotlight, part of a famous family known for their strict religious beliefs, conservative lifestyle, and emphasis on traditional family values. However, as Jinger has grown older, her experiences and perspectives have shifted, leading her to confront difficult emotions, including feelings of anger toward her parents. In recent years, Jinger has become more open about her personal journey, shedding light on her struggles with the expectations placed on her by her parents and their religious convictions. Her honesty, particularly regarding her feelings of resentment, has surprised some fans and prompted discussions about the impact of conservative upbringings on children. In a world where speaking out about familial tensions is often seen as taboo, Jinger's candid reflections represent a brave step toward healing and self-empowerment. The Duggar family's influence, expectations, and upbringing. Jinger Duggar was raised in a family where religious teachings were paramount, and every aspect of her life was shaped by the rules set forth by her parents. The Duggars, as part of the ultra-conservative Christian movement, embraced a strict lifestyle that governed not only their actions but also their beliefs about gender roles, modesty, and family dynamics. From a young age, Jinger was taught that her primary role was to serve God and her family. This meant adhering to traditional gender expectations, including modest dress, submissiveness to her father's authority, and preparing for a future as a wife and mother. The Duggar family's philosophy emphasized purity and self-restraint, where even simple acts like dating were discouraged, replaced instead with courtship, a concept that limits interactions between young people and closely monitors their relationship development. Jinger's upbringing was not unusual within the Duggar family, as all the children were raised under the same principles. However, as she entered adulthood, Jinger began to wrestle with these ideals in a more personal way. It's clear that her experience of growing up in such an environment left a significant impact on her, one that would later fuel feelings of anger and frustration. The turning point: questioning beliefs and authority. Jinger's shift in perspective didn't happen overnight. Like many children raised in tightly controlled environments, the realization that she had the power to question her upbringing came gradually. After marrying Jeremy Vuolo, a former soccer player and pastor, Jinger found herself navigating a new chapter of life far removed from the constraints of the Duggar household. Jeremy's more liberal views on religion and life in general clashed with the Duggar family's approach, providing Jinger with the opportunity to rethink some of her long-held beliefs. One of the most significant points of conflict in Jinger's life came from the way her parents shaped her understanding of religion. Growing up, the Duggars taught that following their faith meant adhering to a very strict set of rules, many of which were not based on mainstream Christian doctrine but rather the interpretations of the family's leaders. These views included views on women's roles, marriage, and relationships with the opposite sex. As Jinger began to experience life outside of her family's bubble, she realized that not all Christian denominations or communities shared the same views. This exposure to new ways of thinking sparked a deep internal conflict. For the first time, she could see that there were other valid ways of living out her faith, ones that allowed for greater freedom and personal expression. It was at this moment that anger began to bubble up. Anger at the control her parents had exerted over her life, particularly over her choices and her autonomy. Jinger had spent so much of her life trying to please her parents and meet their expectations that she had never fully considered what she wanted. The weight of parental expectations, a burden or a blessing. Growing up in the Duggar family meant being expected to follow a very specific path, and Jinger, as the eldest daughter, was often under the microscope. Her every move was scrutinized, from the clothes she wore to the way she interacted with boys, and later, how she approached marriage and motherhood. This intense scrutiny, especially within the context of a television show like 19 Kids and Counting, later Counting On, added an additional layer of pressure. For Jinger, one of the most challenging aspects of her upbringing was the feeling of never being allowed to fully express herself. The Duggars had a set narrative that they followed, one that made little room for questioning or deviation. Every decision seemed to revolve around preserving the family's image of purity, modesty, and faithfulness to their strict religious beliefs. At the heart of this pressure was her parents' desire to ensure that all their children lived by the same standards. The fear of tarnishing the family's reputation, especially in the public eye, loomed large. Jinger's anger stems, in part, from realizing that her parents' priorities often took precedence over her own emotional and personal growth. The question of whether her parents' rules were a form of protection or control became central to her inner conflict. Jinger's relationship with her parents, love, guilt, and resentment, Despite the tension and anger Jinger felt toward her parents, she has expressed a continued love and respect for them. This complex emotional dynamic, feeling both love and anger, has been a recurring theme in her journey. Her reflections on her relationship with Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar have been shaped by both affection and a deep sense of betrayal. For Jinger, the difficulty lies in reconciling her love for her parents with the resentment she feels about their control over her life. The guilt that comes with questioning one's parents, especially in a family as publicly religious as the Duggars, is another aspect of Jinger's emotional experience. Growing up in a religious environment that values obedience to authority figures, Jinger may have internalized the belief that questioning or even expressing anger was sinful. This inner turmoil of guilt and shame has been part of her process of emotional healing. It's important to note that Jinger has chosen to publicly share her story not to vilify her parents, but to empower herself and others who may feel trapped in similar circumstances. Her decision to speak out about her feelings of anger is an act of self-liberation, one that allows her to begin to rewrite her narrative on her own terms. Moving forward, forgiveness, healing, and independence. Jinger Duggar's path to healing involves acknowledging and expressing her anger while also working toward forgiveness. In her more recent interviews and writings, she has acknowledged that the process of healing is not linear and that reconciling her anger with her love for her parents is ongoing. It is clear that while she has distanced herself from some of the family's more rigid beliefs, she still values the lessons of faith and family that were instilled in her. Moving forward, Jinger's journey will likely continue to be a balancing act, navigating her identity as both a Duggar and an individual. Her story resonates with those who have experienced the clash between personal autonomy and familial expectations, especially in deeply religious and conservative settings. Jinger's journey towards self-discovery, as messy and complicated as it may be, is ultimately a story of empowerment. She is learning to trust herself and find her voice, even when it means confronting uncomfortable truths about her upbringing and her family's influence. For Jinger, anger is no longer a source of shame but a tool for understanding and growth. A new chapter of empowerment. Jinger Duggar's honesty about her anger toward her parents represents a significant step in her personal evolution. It's an emotional and complex process, one that involves understanding the ways in which she was shaped by her upbringing, while also embracing the power to choose her own path moving forward. Her journey is not just about anger, but about the reclamation of agency, independence, and self-expression. As Jinger continues to navigate her life as a wife, mother, and public figure, it's clear that her honesty and vulnerability will be a beacon for others who are struggling with their own feelings of anger, frustration, and self-doubt. By sharing her story, Jinger offers hope that it is possible to heal, to forgive, and to move forward, even when the road ahead seems uncertain.